There really are a ton of great third-person shooters, aren't there? Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for another top 10 third-person shooters. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we're looking at even more of the greatest third-person shooters of all time. For our ranking, we'll be considering the game's critical acclaim, lasting legacy, and commercial performance. We won't be including open-world games, as that's a completely different list altogether, nor will we be including games in which you can switch between first and third person. And finally, if you don't see a game that you think should be on here, make sure you check out our first list on this topic.
Freeze! I said freeze!
Number 10, Warframe.
The excavator has lost power. Find another cell.
Starting us off is one of the few free-to-play games that's not only done right, but actually done exceptionally well. While it admittedly got off to a rocky start at launch, developer Digital Extremes' continued commitment to supporting the game 4 years since its release has paid off, with hundreds of hours worth of engaging content in this co-op loot shooter. Though it's a shooter game, it still does have strong support for melee weapons, and the missions with procedurally generated maps mean that there's always something to come back to. If you're a fan of Destiny or Borderlands, this is something you'll certainly want to check out.
I just received a very explicit message from your ship's Sevlon. If you're looking for resources, why didn't you just say so?
Number 9, Force Gemini. This was back when Rare was actually good, when they were developing exciting new titles and not Kinect sports games. While this title wasn't as groundbreaking as GoldenEye or Banjo-Kazooie, it was still a great third-person shooter, one which was heavily influenced by 80s sci-fi adventures. The graphics and level design were out of this world at the time, and the imagination found throughout its many intriguing worlds reminds us of how creative Rare really was. Oh yeah, and you can play as a dog who has a jetpack on his feet, so do we have to say more? Number 8, Alan Wake.
I had to lie about my headache and memory loss. He'd send me to a hospital for tests. I couldn't leave without Alice.
Serving as a love letter to Stephen King and Twin Peaks fans, Alan Wake is a game that wears its inspiration on its sleeve.
Stephen King once wrote that nightmares exist outside of logic, and there's little fun to be had in explanations.
This game has an interesting and rather unique mechanic, in that you have to aim your flashlight at an enemy before you could shoot it. And this made for some truly harrowing and exciting moments, especially when your flashlight runs out of juice. Coupled with impressive storytelling, top-notch production values, and imposing atmosphere, Alan Wake delivered a memorable horror experience, despite a few missteps along the way.
This is a piece of cake, Wake!
Number 7, Hitman 2016.
Target spotted.
Sure, Hitman is primarily a stealth game, but you can absolutely make it into a third-person shooter if you so desire. And yeah, that's a pretty good way to do it too. While the Hitman series has always been expansive, this newest installment is its most complex and sprawling yet. The levels invite almost limitless replays by providing a ton of different paths and options on the way to take out your mark, or marks. While some did not appreciate the episodic release schedule or the atrocious voice acting, Hitman is undoubtedly one of the series' highlights.
Well done, 47. Victor Novikov is next.
Number 6, Tomb Raider. While many complain about the lack of originality in AAA gaming, some classic games unquestionably deserve reboots for new generations, and Tomb Raider was the epitome of that argument. This title brought back a dominant but once great character, and her transformation from passive student to badass Tomb Raider is wrought with emotion and exciting moments. Let's be honest, Lara Croft was once mostly known for her chest, but with this game she finally became the fleshed out character to go along with her iconic gaming status. It was also a very beautiful looking and extremely fluid game, making this both a great reintroduction to the classic character and an amazingly fun game in its own right.
7 Alpha, searching for you since the distress call from your vessel. Almost given up hope.
So had we.
Number 5, Ratchet Clank 2016. Who knew that a reimagined game from 2002 would end up being such a great game in 2016? Ratchet & Clank proved to be a huge surprise that reinvigorated interest in the once popular series. The action was incredibly varied and fast-paced, complete with highly original and inventive weapons, and the environments were stunning to behold and explore. It was also a beautifully polished game which players of all ages could enjoy, and it mostly satisfied fans both old and new alike. Now, let's just forget that the tie-in movie ever existed.
Give it up! It's over!
Number 4, Spec Ops The Line.
Our best chance of getting out of this hellhole.
Calm down, Lugo. There's nothing we could have done.
Spec Ops definitely walks the line between fantastic storytelling experience and mundane shooter, but the story is so impactful, brutal, and emotional that its flaws seem minuscule in comparison. The gameplay can be rather generic, and the multiplayer component is basically uninteresting, but it contained what is arguably one of the greatest stories ever put into a video game. It is equal parts fascinating and horrifying, and some of its twists and turns will punch us square in the guts. Despite its, again, somewhat mediocre gameplay, Spec Ops is something you really need to experience for yourself.
What it is? You wouldn't listen!
Number 3, Vanquish.
The Russians have complete control of this place.
While Vanquish certainly didn't light up the sales charts, it was still a great game and one which deserved much more attention than it initially received. Developed by Platinum Games, this title retains the company's trademark over-the-top high-octane gameplay. Your character wears an enhanced power suit that allows you to do a whole host of insane tricks and stunts that are totally badass when you're actually doing well. It's a very polished experience and one that needs to be played, especially now that it's got an HD remaster on PC. Number 2, Splatoon 2. With gritty multiplayer shooters starting to oversaturate the market, the original Splatoon stood out thanks to its creativity and stylish characters. However, its sequel polished the experience into something extraordinary. The focus on covering turf and ink rather than how many kills you obtain allows those who aren't just all that good at shooters to enjoy the game. And believe it or not, Splatoon is one of those few games where using motion controls is far more beneficial than just analog sticks, as it makes the aiming a bit more precise. While using a mobile app for voice chat is hilariously dumb, Splatoon 2 is still an addictive experience that'll keep you coming back for more. Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Number 1, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. We'll be sad to see Nathan Drake go, but Uncharted 4 was more than a worthy send-off for the series. Nearly everything about this title screams perfection, from the stellar graphics to the emotional and complex writing to the fun-as-hell gameplay. Seriously, that Madagascar chase sequence was a thing of sheer gaming beauty.
How we doing back there? Not good! Not good at all! Keep shooting! I am!
While the enemies are still pretty bullet spongy, and the story takes a while to really get going, these small flaws pale in comparison to the titanic accomplishments. It all really just gels together to create one of gaming's most memorable experiences in years.
What? Is that it?
You asked for it.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.